So in this video today, I just want to give you a quick update on what's happened with my thyroid medication because I was taking a T3-only medication, and a lot of you have been curious about what's happened with that and what I'm doing now and if I'm still taking it and what my experiences were with it. Because taking T3-only as your thyroid medication is not common at all. It's a very rare thing to do, and a lot of conventional medicine doctors aren't used to people doing that and aren't familiar with it, so it's something really far out there to a lot of doctors. I feel like there aren't a lot of resources for people who are going that route. And basically, people who are dealing with complicated thyroid issues or just thyroid issues that they've been dealing with for a really long time and they're not really having success with the other thyroid medications out there, some of those people end up on T3 only if they have found a doctor who's willing to prescribe it and help them along their journey with that. For me personally, for a long time, for many, many years, I've been taking Armour thyroid, which is a natural thyroid medication. Recently, the FDA came out saying that they are essentially going to ban its use. Now, there's a lot that you need to know related to that. I think everything's going to be okay. But if this is the first that you've heard of it and that's something that you're taking, then I would definitely recommend checking out my other video and blog post on it. So I'll link to that down below. So when it comes to thyroid medicines, a lot of people know about Armour thyroid. I have taken the natural medicine for a really long time. And for a really long time, I haven't felt really well on it, and basically I have continued to feel hypothyroid. Even when raising the doses, I've felt either nothing or have felt worse. So as a result, I really wanted to try T3 only. I wanted to go that route and try something completely different, and it is quite a process that you have to go through when you're going to be switching from whatever you're taking to T3 only. So I went through that whole thing, and it spanned several months where I was on this medication, and after a certain period of being on it, you will notice that the old medicine you used to take, if you were taking a combination medicine, whether it was natural or synthetic, if it had T4 in it, that would stay in your system for possibly 4 to 6 weeks. It really depends on the person and how much you were taking. But when that completely clears out of your body, many people experience differences in how they feel when they're taking T3 only. I can only speak for myself, but I know there are people who have had success in taking T3 only thyroid medicine, but I personally want to share what has occurred with me. And for me, what I noticed when I was taking T3 only, there were time periods where I did feel good on it and I felt like it was working effectively. Shortly after starting on it, my sleep improved. So my sleep wasn't horrible before that, but I was struggling with a flare-up of sleep issues, and those basically normalized and improved after getting on T3 only, and that was a really big deal to me and a great improvement. But after the T4 completely cleared out of my system, from what I can presume is when that happened, I noticed that a couple of things were going on. I have been eating pretty low carb for a really long time, and so I'm generally or often in ketosis. But when I was on T3 only, I was no longer able to get into ketosis, or it was insanely difficult. I even did a couple of tests and experiments where I ate nothing, like nothing but meat or just no carbs for a day or two, and I still could barely get into like 0.4 to 0.5 for my ketone levels according to my blood ketone meter, which is the Keto Mojo. So I was rarely in ketosis, but not only that, my blood sugar levels were erratic and often high. And I personally have concerns with diabetes and insulin resistance. I've never had issues with those things, but I don't want to develop those issues, and I don't want to have high blood sugar levels over time because of this medicine that I'm taking. So that was starting to become a problem for me. And then another thing that I experienced once the T4 was cleared out of my system is that oftentimes I would be all too aware when the T3 would wear off. So after about 3.5 to 4 hours, I would start to feel really fatigued, and I would often pass out and just fall asleep uncontrollably. It wouldn't happen as I'm sitting right here, but I could go sit on the couch and I would pass out. And this could happen easily 2 to 3 times a day. And this is not a way for somebody to be functioning where you are basically just passing out uncontrollably multiple times a day as the medicine is wearing off. So I tried to stay ahead of it and take my medicine every 3 hours, but I don't want to feel like I need to recharge my batteries to that extent all day long, to the point where if I don't do that, I am passed out cold. And so that, in combination with the issue of my blood sugar being elevated, I did not want to deal with that anymore. So at some point, I decided to add in synthetic T4. Now this is interesting for me because I have taken T4 a very long time ago, like over a decade ago, and I didn't have a good experience with it. And I want to share this with you because I've heard a lot of people say that they had a bad experience with it on its own, because oftentimes doctors will prescribe T4 by itself, and I don't think that is always the best solution. Maybe that works for some people. Most people that I talk to say that they feel absolutely nothing from their T4 only medication, but for some people, maybe it works. When I got on the T4 only in the past, I didn't have a good experience. I thought I was having an allergic reaction. I felt worsening fatigue and full body itching, hives, and I just did not have a good experience. And I've always been afraid to take it ever since then. But more recently, I've been more open-minded, and I felt like I really needed T4 to balance out the T3. T3 is fast acting and T4 stabilizes your system. I ended up getting on 25 micrograms of T4, and at some point I worked my way up to 37.5 micrograms of T4. So it was 1.5 pills, and I was taking that in addition to the T3. The dose with the T3 doesn't really matter because that is something that I've been tweaking over time, and if anybody is really curious, they can ask me in the comments and I can tell you where I'm at now, like the amounts that I'm taking. But I was taking a certain amount of T3, which I lowered as I raised the amount of T4, by the way. And so I was taking those together, and immediately after raising, I can't remember right now if it was the 25 micrograms of T4 or once I got to 37.5, my blood sugar completely stabilized, and I also stopped passing out uncontrollably. I mean, it's possible at times that I have fallen asleep like that, but it's not like it was when I was on T3 only. I like the freedom to be able to tweak the doses as needed depending on my thyroid function at the time. So what I'm doing now is I'm still working on stabilizing the T4 and the T3 doses and getting those just right so that hopefully I can stay on a certain dose regimen for a certain period of time. But at this point in time, I haven't found those correct doses yet. About a month ago, I was on what I feel like was the optimal amount of T4 and T3, and I was feeling my absolute best that I've ever felt in my life. And I became such a huge fan of these synthetic medications because of the way that I was feeling at that time. Now I'm just going to be really real and totally honest with you guys. After that period of time, you know, when I was feeling this way, it didn't just go on for a couple of days. It was going on like that for weeks. But something changed close to around the time of my birthday, which was, you know, about a month ago. And I was working out regularly almost every day, and I think that I kind of pushed myself a little too hard. And for some of you who don't know this, I've had my cortisol levels tested over the years, basically over the last decade, a couple of times, and it's been chronically low, my cortisol levels. This is based on results from the Dutch Complete test. I'm going to ask my doctor that I'm going to chat with tomorrow if I can get some lab tests done in person to really take a look at what's going on there, because I feel like this could be my biggest issue right now. I mean, it's possible that I'm wrong, but I feel like I got my thyroid doses really stabilized at that time, and I know that that can change. But like I said, then I started working out more regularly, and in that way, I was stressing my body and stressing my adrenals by working out when my body wasn't used to that. And I ended up having a situation where my heart rate became elevated and my sleep got messed up, and I started waking up at 2 a.m. Oh, in addition to that, my back kind of went out, and I had basically like full body inflammation and full body soreness. And so I wanted to give myself some time to heal. It took about a week for my heart rate to get back to normal and to stop being elevated, and for the soreness to go away and my back to be fixed because my back was messed up. But the problem is, ever since that time, which was several weeks ago, I haven't recovered to the point where, like I said, a month ago, I was feeling the absolute best energy levels and the best that I have felt in longer than I can ever remember. And it felt like this thyroid medicine is incredible. The synthetic medicine is potent, and it was working so optimally for me. That's what it felt like. But ever since I had the issue of, being strained with the body soreness, the heart rate going up and elevated, and then the sleep issues, I haven't been feeling good since then. Like, I don't feel optimal anymore. I don't feel like I'm at the optimal dose. And I basically started having some symptoms of being hypothyroid again. So I personally feel like that whole situation could be related to my low suppressed cortisol levels and cortisol-related, adrenal-related issues. But I wanted to share that because not everybody's aware of it. And cortisol is really important for your thyroid function and for your blood sugar levels, your overall health, your energy, your ability to withstand stress and stressors of all kinds, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever it is. It's just so important. And if you have issues with getting really burnt out from, let's say you go to a family function and you come home and you're burnt out for weeks, I feel like from my experience, that is often related to cortisol related issues. And for me, it's related to low cortisol. And another thing that happened recently is I was feeling my best, and so I went to a family function. I drove for about 4 to 5 hours one day. It was really far, and then the same on the way back. And I felt so horrible after that, so burnt out that I could barely do any work and barely function, and had horrible fatigue for almost 2 weeks after that. And that's not something that I remember experiencing very often in these recent years. That is something I used to experience quite often many years ago. When I had my Hashimoto's, that was basically undiagnosed and I wasn't treating it properly. This is something I really need to work on. I feel like at this point in time, I am working on raising my thyroid medication dose because I do feel hypothyroid. When it comes to the cortisol and adrenal situation, like I said, that's something I'm going to try to work out with my really open-minded integrative health doctor, hoping that she can order some labs for me. And I still really, really prefer taking these synthetics over Armour. I still feel like they're helpful. I just need to get the doses right. And I'm going to keep tweaking things. I just hope that I can stabilize the dose soon. Now, if you're somebody dealing with thyroid issues and thyroid medication issues, just hang in there. I feel like doctors really should let the patient experiment with their guidance and let them do what they need to do to get to the right dose, because if you are under medicated, you're going to feel horrible. And I feel like that is one of the most common issues people have with their thyroid problems. So that's all I wanted to say here. If you have any questions or any comments, please share them down below. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.